I used to live in California, and it was so cool because it didn't rain there all summer. So everyone I knew had these outdoor rooms that they just would pull sofas and coffee tables and candles out of the house and just put them on their patio, and they'd have this beautiful room outside. And so I kind of wanted to recreate that in my present climate, which is not nearly so conducive to being outdoors because it rains a lot. But here's the trick. If you make furniture from sticks and twigs and branches, they're used to being outside, so no harm done. So this tree fell down, and it's such perfect timing. And it came down with a huge crash, and I went out and investigated it, and it's just all over the forest floor. So I decided to make a garden screen for my outdoor room. Now I know it's a bit unusual, but when it's got beautiful wisteria vines wrapping through it, it's going to be ultimately cool. And it's kind of cool because it's got leather hinges, so you can, you know, a howling wind could come up and nothing would happen. And also it's ready for any topographical challenge. See, like no matter what kind of uneven ground it's on, the hinges just, they roll with it. Also, you can see it's really, because the wood is green, it really is very resilient, so it's a lot of fun to work with. Also, it has this pretty cove molding all around the edges. It gives the screen a look that it sort of belongs indoors, but it can be outdoors. So all these darn branches, of course, had leaves all over them, so I've been stripping and stripping and stripping, and never get too tired of that. So see, there's just a lot of leaf stripping going on here. But that's okay because it gives the thing a better look than if I just used it with all the leaves on it. It would just, then they'd die and it would just look like a compost pile vertical. So the tree that fell down happened to have been a maple. That's a hardwood. And if you want a little quick primer on wood, here's the secret. Any wood that grows nuts or fruits is usually a bona fide hardwood. Then there are trees that grow cones, and those are softwoods, mostly like pine and spruce and stuff. And then there's some other trees like this maple that's somewhere in the middle. It's a softer hardwood. It definitely is a hardwood. And so I'll just finish trimming this little baby up, and then we can get started. Oop, this one. Lovely. Okay, so to make the frame for this baby, you have to have a bit of cedar on hand, and it's just 2x4 cedar, and you just screw it together at the corners with some outdoor screws, you know, ones that aren't going to rust. And then you need to make marks all along the inside edge to show you where you want to drill the little holes for the twigs. Because if you put them all over the surface of the 2x4, you're not going to be able to trim it out later. So all I do is grab a pencil and I just eyeball this. You can use a, you know, more official tool if you want, but I've just gone all the way around the inside circumference of this thing, or the inside border, making marks like that. And then when I'm drilling, I always know approximately where the center is. All right, now, this branch is from the top of the tree. See, it's fairly straight. Actually, this one's an even better example. This is new growth. It's very bendable and pliable, and this stuff here is lower down on the tree. Wahoo! Okay, this is very curly, and the bark is a little bit more, tough, all right? And it's got more knuckles. It just looks older, all right? So they give very different characters to what you're building, so you might want to mix and match and wind some of the old stuff through some of the new stuff. So this is what the end looks like. You should cut it, butt-ended as well as you can. If you have this kind of a cut, it's very hard to get it to insert into the little cylinder that we're going to be drilling for it in the frame. So make sure you have nice straight butt cuts. There we go. And then you're going to need to do a little whittling. Now, the bark is all around the outside. The bark is going to dry in time, and then once it's inserted in the hole, it'll start to slough off, and the glue will just be still holding the bark, but the twig will fall out of the hole because it tends to shrink. So it's important to get all the bark off, and then observe the end of the thing. If it's not round, which it isn't really, it's not going to fit in the hole very well. So I'll just get a few of these prepared.
You know, when you dream up ideas for projects, you have to be patient when you're executing them. Even Leonardo da Vinci used to get frustrated at times, which is why he once said, "Why does the eye see a thing more clearly in dreams than the imagination when awake?" Only he said it in Italian, so it probably didn't sound so whiny.
Okay, I've got a few sticks prepared now, ready to go. And I just want to show you the right way to whittle these. There are two ways to whittle, the right way and the wrong way. So let's look at this in case your mother never told you. This one is whittled in a nice cylindrical shape, which is great because it's going into a cylindrical hole. So the sides of it will grasp, they'll make contact with the sides of the hole, and the glue will hold the little stick in place. This one's tapered, so it starts out thick, it gets thin, it's going to get in the hole, and it'll only be in touch with the hole right at the top, and it's just going to get wiggly and loose, and it's going to shrink with age anyway. That's what happens with these things, and it's disappointing. So they might fall out anyway, so give them all the chance they can by whittling them as evenly as possible. Okay, so when you figure out what you want to start with, like this is my hero branch that I'm going to start with, and it's going to go in on a bit of an angle so that it kind of crosses up like this. And to find the right size drill bit for this, the way to do that is to get your drill index open and then pick a spot that you think will fit. That's okay, but it's actually a little bit big. So go down a size, and that's pretty good. It's fairly tight in the hole, which is always what you're aiming for. So I'll take that one and load her up, or him, and safety glasses. Now, there are a lot of different bits in the world, and these are called paddle bits, and they're nicely filed in a kind of an intuitive order. But they start at a 1/4 inch and they go all the way up to a full inch. And they're fine if you're using a giant stick, with a big end on it. And I'll show you that later. But they don't work so well in cedar. They tend to, the cedar is very sinewy, and it tends to clog those more aggressive bits. Okay, so to drill this hole on an angle, I start out pushing the drill bit straight in, and when it's got a little bit of a bite, that's when you angle it. If you start out angled, watch, you'll just skid. You just skid all over the place. Okay, so start out straight. I'll just see if that's deep enough. Yeah, perfect. What a satisfying feeling. Look at how that baby fits. Okay, so I'm going to drill a few of these and get them sort of dry fitted so they're roughly in place, and then I'm going to glue them. Okay, this is coming along now. I have about 3/4 of the way up one side done, and I am gluing with outdoor glue, which is a great glue that dries waterproof, so those little stickies aren't going anywhere. So all around the sides and a little bit on its little bottom so that it lands on the bottom of the hole, we hope. And then in it goes. Oops. There. Now if there's a little over secretion, you can just dab that away, tidy up. All right, so there's one other thing I want to show you, which is it's a good idea to kind of when you select the stick for the hole, you need to kind of pick one that's in the same plane. In other words, this is just going to stick up way too much. So if I take off this layer and this layer, I have a stick that's more or less in the same plane, so it's a little bit easier to work with later. All right, so I'm about ready to flip this around and start working from the other side, and then that's when I'll start weaving all these bits in so it's not quite so hairy. It's a bit out of control right now. Ooh. So, okay, it's good to talk to your sticks actually. They'll help you out, let you know where they want to go. Because what's happening is I've got a few long pieces. I flipped this thing and I did the other side. So the hairy bits go up on this side and they go up on the other side too. So when I weave them together, they'll hopefully compress a bit. But you're gonna have to whittle the opposite end of some of the long branches and then drill a little hole for them and insert them so that, you know, it stabilizes the whole thing a bit more. Okay, so a little bit of glue. And then I'm going to start the weaving process, which is just kind of a really cool part. There we go. Okay, so that'll stay there. And then, so you have to do the weaving sort of has to happen on this side first, and then I'll flip it over. But all you do is reach under and try to pull the ends into under the opposite side so they're kind of working against each other. And it's great having this green wood because it really wants to cooperate. Having said that, of course, it completely doesn't want to cooperate. Sorry guys, I don't know what I was thinking. Jeez. Okay, talk to your wood as I said earlier. It's encouraging for it. Okay, now this one wants to bend under. I think I got a lot more sticks in this one than I had in the other two panels. So when I join them up, I might find they don't quite match and I'll have to add some. So that piece wants to go way under there. See how fast it goes? And it's sort of starting to calm down a little. And you want to go deep under there. Oops. There, look how pretty. See how much it's compacted now? Broken. It's pretty springy and resilient, but it's all the branches are woven together now, so they're all squished. So it has a much flatter profile. So the next thing to do is trim this baby out because it looks a bit rough right now. It doesn't have quite that finished look, and that's what this cove molding will give us. It'll make it look almost like a finished window frame with just a bunch of branches in the middle of it. All right, so to do that, you're gonna have to cut a 45-degree angle. So you can use a primitive, simple old miter box. You know, there's probably one kicking around in the basement somewhere. You can use an electric chop saw, or you can use this kind of just a hand setup. Now, I'll show you a little trick that I use, which is I cut one end to the to fit one of the corners, and I put it in place, and I just grab a pencil and I put this corner in as tight as I can get it, and then come over to the other side and eyeballing it, looking straight down on the little corner, I put a mark, and then I go like this to show me which angle to cut it at, because I forget usually by the time I get over to the saw. Okay, so this angle's right. So this comes around like this. No, it doesn't. It was right. It's a geometry thing. Okay, so up it comes. Now, you know, there's a whole bunch of ways to cut 45-degree angles, and some of them are a little bit more primitive than others, but I'm just going to drop my blade right on that mark I made. The top mark I'm talking about, not this goofy little angle here. And then I have to lock my board in with these cool little clamps that come on the saw. I've cut miter joints in the past just using a ruler and my eye, so you can be as precise as you want to be. Now, with any luck, that will fit, and all I need to do is keep cutting them for the rest of this. Yeah. Okay, it's a bit tight, but it'll work. So I'm gonna cut all the ones for this side and glue them in place, and I'm gonna clamp them, these smart little mini clamps, because they're just so tidy. And then flip it over and do the other side, and then leather hinge time. Huh?
When people first thought up hinges for doors, they made them out of leather. So what I don't understand is, when they locked a damsel in a castle tower as punishment for some misdeed, could she not have just used her pocket knife to saw through the leather hinge and then bust the door down and make a daring escape? I mean, what was the problem there?
Okay, the glue's set up. It's been about 20 minutes, and look. Ta-da! See how pretty? Look, the trim really finishes this out, so it looks very proper. All right, so now it's time to hinge. Now to hinge, you're gonna wanna get some oil tanned leather, if you can, or maybe some fake sort of naga hide stuff would work too. And there's one of my hinges, and it's just set up like a normal hinge, you know, to fold like this. And you put those little holes in with an awl if you want to, or if you're a tool geek, like I proudly am, you can get a leather punch, and that just pops a nice little hole, and it goes really quickly too. Plus, it doesn't tear out as badly as it does if you use an awl, so this is a good way to go. All right, well, I could punch holes forever, but let's just move right on. So I'm gonna take this piece over and line it up with the other guys. Now, I could make a zigzag thing like this, but it's not as intimate to me as a kind of more enclosing kind of a feeling, so I'm gonna do it this way. So I'll put my hinges on right here, and at the bottom, but I'll just set this piece aside for the moment, easy, and get one of the hinges on. I'm using brass screws because they don't corrode outside, they're really nice. But they have to be pre-drilled because they just tend to strip out if you just put them into bare wood. So I want to set the hinge down 11.5 inches, which is what I did on the other side. So I guess I'll need a tape measure if I'm going to be just so precise. I once built something without ever using a tape measure just to see how good my eye was. Not that good. So 11.5 inches, so it's gonna go right there. I want it like this, actually. Oh gosh, like this. 11.5. Okay, so just pre-drill. And, oh. Okay, this, you want to split the difference, right? The middle of the hinge is there. And you want 3 screws definitely close to the edge because that's where all the stress is going to be. So don't do 2 here, do at least 3. Oops. Almost done here, the tension mounts. Okay, ready? Oh. What's the matter here? Come on, there, it's stuck on a stick. There, look how sweet that is. It's a beautiful little outdoor room. See, and it's not that hard. It's really fun to work with twigs, and if you don't believe me, you just ask Doug Padden and his son John. They made this beautiful outdoor lattice, and it's a little bit more structured than what I did because they have some discipline, and they've got a sort of a sunburst thing going on up at the top, and they left lots of their little twiggies sticking out, which really makes it look pretty and rustic. And John actually, or rather Doug, the dad, used to be an antique specialist, and then he couldn't find any more twig furniture, which he loved, so he just started making it himself. And he says that he gets his best ideas drinking beer. So, Yep, I'm getting ideas.
One of the most reliable ways to get ideas is definitely beer. But you have to be careful in mixed company because the ideas you get from beer can get you in trouble. Ideas like, I bet that guy thinks I'm pretty attractive. Or other ideas like, yeah, that guy really digs me. Or, hey, that guy is drinking the same kind of beer as me. He must really be my type. And then eventually when the beer wears off, you suddenly realize, whoa, the guy is my husband. That's a real shocker, isn't it?